Boniface Chiesa is an economist and policy analyst. Is live to us here at our global headquarters for this a bit of a lengthy conversation. Various parts of this state of the economy we're going to discuss within the hour. You want to stand by everyone to the end of the show. Good morning, sir. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Let's check in with the progress report. If you had to write a progress report on President Buhari's handling of the economy right now, you want to do a bit of an approval rating, how would you put that for him?
Well, I think that's commencing from the second term. I think it's a bit premature. I think that we need to give him some time.
Give me a sense of a show of hands.
Yeah, but
the president's showing his hands a little bit.
Well,
if you say, well, it's early days, do you think he's taking some good steps?
Well, I think the thing to say is that we've not seen his hands.
Really?
Yes, we've not seen his hands. I mean, we are waiting. It took some time to put
it's just in the cabinet. It's just in the cabinet.
I put a cabinet. He just appointed advisory council.
Then he's been speaking. He's been speaking as well.
Yeah, he's been speaking.
Yes.
But you know, I don't seem to get a sense. I mean, he's talked about addressed a few issues. He's talked to central bank, saying that, for instance,
extensively on June 12th.
Yes.
Yeah, about 75 paragraphs.
Yes, well, I don't know to what extent that covered the economy. You know, that's the thing we need to be asking ourselves. I think that's from where.
What it says on June 12th was that he's going to lay a solid foundation for the economic future of this country.
Yeah, I mean there are promises. But I'm saying that there are promises, and we did have things like we're going to take so many people out of poverty.
Yes,
so about projections.
June 12th,
so
100 million.
Yeah, so the sound bites are okay. You know, sound bites are okay. What I'm saying to us is that we will still want to see action on ground. You know, so if you take, I have some issues with even the way some of the reversals, you know, we've had. You know, I remember I came here and celebrated the fact that. A budget and planning were being put together, and was being taken out of finance and so on. But now we go back, and then we see that it's all again collapsed. And so, in one of the comments I made, I did say to myself that maybe it's based on experience I've had so far. But when you look at it, you know, it doesn't make sense to me because you see, the planning and the budgeting, they go together. Financing, to a large extent, is bookkeeping. Large extent, although you now have agencies reporting to, you know, so if you're talking of what should drive this economy is planning and budgeting. Yeah. And so all the plans you have, you know, like I said to people, we're not talking about 30-year plan. I hear there are lots of good sound bites. You know, we're going to do plans, we're going to do 30-year, perspective plans and so on. Yes, good sound bites everywhere. We're going to, you know, leave so many people out of poverty. We'll give the numbers and so on. But then there's nothing on ground. Even the budget, you should have expected by now that besides the briefing we had, there has been some action. And now we hear that MTF is going to be considered by the Senate. It's going to go back to the Senate. Until you begin to do MTF now gives you an overview. It gives you the context, you know, under which you begin to prepare your budget, articulate your budget, gives you direction. We're still waiting for that. You know, so even the Senate, they're not assembled.
So based on the past few months and what you think, everyone believes that, well, it's too early. Okay, fine, great. So, but based on what we have on the ground, because this is an administration in continuity, at least until 2023. So is it doing things differently or doing different things?
Well, I think that it's early to say we're doing things differently. What we wanted to see now, I've seen now is doing things, different things. For instance, you have border closure.
You want the administration to do different things, or do things differently, or both?
Well, I think both to some extent. There are certain things we've had on ground which we need to revisit. You know, we need to tackle. And we're looking for the political courage to do that. And that's why.
For example.
Yeah, for instance, you know, I mean, remove the subsidy.
Petrol subsidy.
Petrol subsidy, yes, it's important. You know, so subsidy is key. I mean, the other things we've done, okay, we've just done VAT. You know, I mean, that people, I received flags, you know, people, when I supported the fact that we're doing increasing the budget VAT from 5 to 7.2, 7.5 now. I see lots of flag. You know, people don't like paying tax. You know, but I did say that we are challenged. You know, physical sustainability is an issue. You cannot.
Some folks say the industrial manufacturing sector, they're weak, SMEs. So well, if you increase VAT, they're going to pass that down to consumers.
Yes, okay, that's consumers. You know, I say to people, you know, how do you calculate VAT? Well, VAT will come if I buy something, you give me an invoice. It doesn't affect the price. You don't put it in the price. And so you give me an invoice. When you're going to give me an invoice, as you not want to determine exactly what I'm going to pay, you add the VAT.
Well, the woman on the roadside doesn't give a receipt. I haven't collected I'm not sure the vulcanizers give receipts. Maybe we'll start asking.
But Wilson, that's part of the problem of this economy. It's saying that we have a very large informal sector. And
I agree with you on that.
And that's our saving grace. I'm telling you. I mean, if you look at the mainstream economy, not much is happening out there. But because we have an informal sector that is very large.
But a lot of these folks at the informal economy don't charge VAT.
No, they wouldn't charge.
The madam down the road, the woman frying buns, whatever, they don't charge VAT.
No, they don't have to charge VAT.
But the VAT, so there are millions
people
outside the VAT. Some
brackets.
of them within the what they call the trader money, the 10,000 naira thing that's given to them, they don't charge VAT.
Yes, I would expect that those you want to target, if you're talking of VAT, would be those who are really in the formal sector, those who are doing real good business.
To a large extent.
Yes, manufacturers, it takes some issues about cigarette production, so they say the way the VAT is shared in some parts of this country, they don't accept that we should smoke and alcohol and so on and so forth. You collect the VAT.
But that conversation would always be there. It's always been there.
Yes.
But again, if you look at the economy in President Buhari's final lap in office, do you think that Mr. President is beginning to, is working on anti-corruption, is just collapsed one of the agencies recently and said, look, send all the reports to me and all of that in terms of asset recovery. If you look at the FRS, for what you say, this is all still chasing revenue, chasing illicit financial flows and what have you. And then the insecurity is beginning to take a large chunk of budgetary expenditure, and looks like the economy is getting a little bit less. So do you think the Mr. President trying to put together what he called a team, and I go back to the June 12th a speech which was about the lengthiest he has spoken in recent times, and quite detailed, as it were. Do you think focusing on economy on this final lap of his administration is the way to go?
Yes, I think so, because the economy is key. The only legacy he's going to leave, what people are going to remember of him is that the quality of life of people improved. This is very important. You go to industrialized world, you go to the West, and one of the things they'll ask you, they say, look, this man, from the time he came and the time he left, what has happened to your quality of life at an individual level? And so what do you say about that in Nigeria? And so you look at indices, you look at the environment, you look at power, you look at water, you look at roads, you look at insecurity, you look at the killings, kidnappings and so on and so forth. Really, it's obvious to everybody that there has been no remarkable improvement in any sector. I mean, we say, for instance, Boko Haram has been downgraded. But we still, you read in the papers, so they're still killing our troops and so on. And so it's still work in progress in all sectors of the economy. I think that's nobody can contradict that. And then, but I say to myself, as somebody who has a planning background, I want to say, like, we have economic recovery and expansion program and so on. What's happened to it? It's supposed to, I think it's expire, I think it's 2020. It's supposed to be for
the EIGP is down and out next year.
Yes, okay. So what I say to us, so to what extent has it been implemented? And who has given us any comeback and given us an account of what has happened? And so, as to where I stand, I also say that, if I have a program, a 4-year program, and I say to people, when you have a program, the budget should implement that program. And that's why it's like a plan. And so that's why I said you have plan and budgeting together. And so if I'm going to do my 1-year budget, it dovetails with the first year of that plan.
Do you think the budget trade is still on track, as it were, or you think it's wobbled with the way our calendar period has consistently overlapped over the last 3-4 years or so?
It's again good sound bites. When to see it. It's for us to aim. It's good for us to aim. To have aligned the calendar year and the budget year. That's how it's done everywhere.
Which is January to December.
Yes, and then of course the Senate president, on several occasions, has taken it from the president and said that we're going to try. We are ready. Even if it means delaying our recess and so on, to make sure that our budget will start 1st January. Now, if we do that, that will be massive development.
Do you think they'll be able to do that if everything is put together according to the finance budget and national plan?
I think that maybe we'll get some initial improvement. it would be spreading too much, to say that, we'll have the budget start. I cannot see the signs. Start. If you take...
technically October and November in the middle.
Yes.
Perhaps
No, I don't see.
The first half of
Look,
December.
Yeah, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, they say that the MTF should be submitted in August. I don't know whether it's been submitted now. And so take that.
It's been discussed at the Economic Council and what have you.
Well, yes, okay, but then it has to be approved by the Senate.
It hasn't been approved.
It's not. Well, I'm not sure. I think maybe it's gone to the Senate. I think the report says it's gone to the Senate, but the Senate is still on recess. So they have to resume. They resume, and then before they take this on board. And so you look at it and say, look, so we need to. We must take some hard decisions. So you take the Economic Council and so on and so forth. I think we can ride on it. Use that as an alibi. To push in certain things.
Do you think the Doyin Salami's Economic Advisory Council is the I don't want to use the phrase. I'm being very careful about using the phrase the last option, as it were, for President Buhari to get the economy on a right footing?
Well, I think that maybe people are making too much about the council. Council is advisory. So if you're advisory, then you cannot implement. That's why some of us are taught that in trying to put the budget and the cabinet together, that's when we should have injected some technical persons. I mean, I listen to people. They say, look, those put there as ministers and so on. If you look at their background, they are qualified and so. But that's besides the point. When that cabinet was put together and you looked at the list, you didn't get any strong message about any of the particular candidates occupying any position. And even some, I don't want to. I think that the deal is done. So I think that if you ask me, I did a post in which I did say that. What we're trying to do now is like, trying to bolt the door close the door after the horse has bolted to a large extent. Because you assemble some great guys, so on the Economic Advisory Council. And so it's advisory. So yes. It's there. So the president has a choice to advise him.
If Doyin Salami, Bismarck, and the rest of them gives an advice to Mr. President, he could call the relevant ministers or head of departments and agencies and says, I think we should get this done.
Oh, yeah.
Or pass it to Mr. Vice President and say, could you guys just look through this over because I would like to get this done this way.
Oh, yes. But he has to be sold on it.
So, he has to be sold.
He has to be sold on it.
Looks like Mr. President is already sold.
I
remember.
No, he's sold on the concept of having an advisory council.
Yes.
But on specific issues, don't know what's going to happen. Suppose they come tomorrow. Yes. And say flow the naira.
Yes.
Yes. The president flow the naira. This president will not flow the naira.
MFLA
will not flow the naira.
Well.
Yeah. So what's going to happen? So,
Mr. President, I don't know how I'm going to react.
So you can't dictate to them. If you come and say go and devalue the naira, for instance,
or sell the refineries.
If they sell the refineries, they look at it. We've been trying to sell the refineries for a long time.
Yes.
Yes. There are no takers. Who will buy the refineries given the circumstances? Prevailing circumstances.
Maybe we'll just list them straight on the stock exchange.
Well, yeah, okay. Maybe we'll try and privatize
and just see what value comes from there.
Well, maybe you can see if you can do that. But to get the money, the quantum of money is humongous. Money you're talking of to buy
quite a lot. This administration, as you said, this council will have to face very critical decision. Structural reforms, economic restructuring has been talked about. Do you think the administration has the tendency or would listen to this team to effect this very critical and very hard-biting advice, the shopping list that will likely be handed over to them? For now, we don't know how long this team, advisory council, will be in place. It's not been said, so we don't know whether it's a 6 months or a 1 year, or you're going to be there. They're going to be there until 2023. So no one knows that for now. Perhaps maybe at their inauguration in a week or two down the line, we'll know that.
Well, I think that it's trite to ask if they will listen. They will listen, and so they listen. It's like God, hears our prayers, and it depends on how He wants to answer. So I would expect that President Buhari, certainly, having taken the trouble to set up the council, will listen to the council. There's no doubt about that. Well, I think that the thing that the president has to do is that he has to, for instance, ab initio, would expect that maybe as he inaugurates, again, we'll listen to his soundbites and hear what he's going to say. I think there are critical areas where I think that I can see him, if he's being smart enough, to use them, for instance, to leverage and say, well, these people has given me this advice, and I put them together, and I want to be seen, to be listening to the advice they've given to me. Otherwise, they'll start feeling a bit discouraged. So use them. It's okay. They've said I should remove a subsidy and so on, make sure that, we remove subsidies in all areas. And then so we're going to do that. And so perhaps, so use that.
Yeah, perhaps Mr. President is going to say, well, I'm going to remove subsidy because this team made up of ordinary Nigerians, and experts says we should do it, so let's go ahead and do it. Then you could just hang it on Doyin Salami's neck and the rest of it.
So that would be smart to do. So because Doyin Salami doesn't have a stake as such. He has a stake in this country as a citizen of this country. But then political consequences, but then would anybody naively accept that? We wouldn't accept that because then the box stops.
A lot of kudos have come from various interest groups, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce, the IOD, you belong to some of these, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Liquid and yes, this is a great team, this is a good move at this point in time to bring the economy back from the brink, as one of those press statements put it. You believe that?
Yes, I think so. If you look at some of the members of the committee, let's not be personal. Some have been on record, gone viral, presentations have made even outside this country, and compared Nigeria and other countries and so on and so forth. And this would be a smart way to say, okay, you've been quite critical of us, so come. Come and tell us, come and advise us.
Interestingly, this 8-man team has about 3 or 4 on one side and a few on the other.
Yes.
You have Doyin Salami, a former member of the MPC. You have Soludo, a former central bank governor, and Bismarck Rewane on one side.
Yes.
Then you find a few others who have worked with the
Dr. Ayagi too.
With the World Bank, with the IMF, and all of that. So we have a bit of the multilateral folks who are on one side. But do you think there will be a very strong influence of Soludo, Salami, and Rewane in this council?
I did the post, and one of the things I did highlight is that I wonder how, because I think that these are guys who their views are canvassed, so we need their views. There are some have very strong views. And so what I'm saying is that for some of them who are not too well known to us, now supposing they also have strong views. And so one of the challenges I see Doyin, my friend, going to have is that he's going to have issues with having to get a consensus going. So when you have people with ego, throwing their egos are bad and hopeless, so you're going to have
it's about their experience.
Yeah, and by experience, but supposing we have
about their ego, but about their experience, their views,
but then if I hold to my views strongly, and then I refuse to be accommodating. And you put me on the council. One of the things I have to going to the council. One of the things I have to prepare to do is that I have to shift up, to compromise my views.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. I like the way it looks like at the moment, because they will all go and have a meeting with Mr. President. So it's gonna be like, okay, fine. Each of them will express their views, even if they have a common paper to say, well, this is our views. But again, they'll be free to speak freely.
I don't think they meet with the president. I think they meet and make presentations to the president. They will not meet. The president will not be there. They will come, discuss, take issues, discuss.
No, it says they will meet personally, which they will report directly.
Direct to him, yes. After they have some issues.
There's no need to have an advisory council without meeting him face to face.
No, they'll meet him, but then he will not sit at their meetings, deliberations.
But at least he will sit with them when they've finished meeting, and they'll say, so if there are dissensions or dissenting views, he'll be able to listen and try to.
But let me tell you what I think I want to see the president do is that there are certain areas we have issues. We have issues with servicing our debts. Debt management is an issue. So it's an area, so can we tap on, the expertise, to give us some more guidance, So we seem to be getting these debts, and we're not being able to service the debts. And if you look at the servicing rate, you look at the revenue we get, and you look at the quantum, you spend about 60% of the revenue to service debts. And the debts, we are still growing these debts, So I would like, for instance, for them to come in and be able to see if, given their expertise, we'll get an input. Now, to shed more light on the path forward.
Okay. One of the path forward is we have an independence anniversary, the 59th, in a few days' time, and then President Buhari is the one who will be doing the country the honor next year for the 60th independence anniversary. What are your thoughts about the road we've traveled? Do you think Nigeria's future is in our past if you look at all the various policies, agendas, framework, development plans, whatever that we've all put together over a 59-year period? The shelf is very heavy, well loaded.
Well, I think that some of us have been around for a while. One thing that's obvious is that quality of life has deteriorated. It's obvious. Nobody can counter that. I went to university in the early mid-70s. I know here in Nigeria, University of Lagos, and I know the quality of education, quality of life, and I just want to use that as an indicator. And I'm sure you can say that for several other areas, important areas of this country. Security, quality of life, and so on and so forth, employment opportunities. When I left the university, I had about 2 or 3 jobs. I had a job with the federal government to teach. I read mathematics. I had a scholarship I knew I was going, Commonwealth scholarship, I knew I was going to England. All was waiting. And those who got jobs then, the jobs they got, they had cars. They had ladder cars, brand new. And so it's obvious. That was something that consistently there has been deterioration. And even you look at the roads, you go to the roads, even the roads that were built in those days, and you look at the quality and durability of the roads that were built, and you look at what we're having now. You construct a road now, 2 rainy seasons, it's washed out.
Do you think
corruption has multiplied?
Do you think Nigeria's future is in the past?
Well,
do you think what we need to do to get the economy right, social life right, do you think they're all buried in those national development plan, the various Vision 2010, Vision 2020, whatever? Do you think they are there in the past, or we need to chart a new one?
No, I think that they're all there. I mean, if we're talking about perspective planning, people have lamented, those who have been around, those who are at the hands and so on of the affairs in this economy. They said there are certain things we did in the past that we're not doing now. And certain things that happen, for instance, even you take the civil service, and the reforms in the civil service, and then some people will tell you, people like Philip Asiodo, will tell you, what those reforms, from permanent secretary to director general and so on and so forth, and the shifting and shoving and so on, what it is done, even to the quality of the civil service. And so I'm just speaking as it comes, to mind. And so it's a deterioration everywhere. We're talking about private sector-led economy and so on and so forth. So what is happening? Where's the private sector? And so, yes.
The final question. We're running out of time. Do you think this administration is laying that foundation beyond independence, 60th independence next year?
Well,
I think a tough question for you.
Well, it is in the sense that I want to believe that they are doing so, but then do we have the capacity, the capability? That becomes the issue. Do we have to put plans and programs in place? Are we able to implement them? So far, it's not been the prospects have not been very encouraging. I think that we hope that it's in the interest of this country and all of us that we'll be able to garner, more wisdom, so be able to manage things better and so on and so forth. But take corruption, for instance, so are we making any impacts, on corruption? And that's a big issue, for development. So you can't grow if, for instance, you earn 100 naira and 5, 6, leaks out of the system. And so there are issues. So I think that it's difficult to say, but I want to believe that God helping us, we should be able to chart our way forward. Because you've been told, population in this country, it's going to grow massively.
Do you still believe in Happy Independence Day, Mr. Chize?
Yes, well, we'll do Happy Independence Day, but it must be a sober Happy Independence Day.
There's a difference between happy and sober.
Yeah. You want to thank God for, whatever it is.
Not that you're necessarily happy.
No, because, like I said before, we don't have much to celebrate. There's not much to celebrate, So all around us, we see issues. We see issues and we're concerned. We're not making
you think Independence Day is losing its significance?
Obviously, it's lost to some extent, but it's like a ritual, which we have to go, we have to do, and so on and so forth.
We'll be ready for it in the next couple of days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Boniface Chize, economist and a policy analyst, talking to us about the state of the economy and the future.